Welcome to All Car Review channel. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you. When you think about electric cars, you probably picture them plugging away in rush hour freeway traffic, or perhaps threading between skyscrapers. You don't, as a general rule, picture them running around this place. By this place, I mean Namibia. The middle of the Kalahari Desert, under a screaming sun. And yet, that's exactly where I find myself at the wheel of Audi's first mainstream electric vehicle, the 2019 E-Tron SUV. I've made the epic 3-flight schlep to get time behind the wheel of this important machine, and over the course of a couple of days, I'll bomb around a massive, open salt pan, sideways, in both daylight and pitch darkness, and I'll tiptoe noiselessly past a tower of giraffes on an off-road course. The E-Tron starts at $74,800 and features a new form of Quattro all-wheel drive, a 2-motor, through-the-road system. Quattro, as you may recall, cut its teeth in dusty, remote and inhospitable terrains that often looked a lot like Namibia. In fact, Audi positively cleaned up and rolled rally championship races around the globe using the tech in the early 80s, including in Africa. Naturally, the way this electric SUV delivers its power to all four wheels is entirely different than those legendary gas-powered monsters, but Audi has gone to extremes to ensure that the E-Tron isn't just able to execute big, yawning drifts on loose surfaces, it's exactly the type of machine capable of goading the driver into doing so. The other thing about Namibia? It's chock full of German vibes, having been occupied by the European country in the 19th century. Relations are rather more cordial these days. Namibia remains a favorite tourist destination for German volks, and in the capital city of Windhoek, Deutsch is heard often enough that signs are frequently written in German and loads of locals speak fluently. In other words, despite having nothing resembling an electric car charging infrastructure, the E-Tron remains improbably at home in Africa. But before I get further sidetracked by world history, let's focus on the present. Despite now having had my mitts on it, I still don't know everything there is to know about E-Tron. Audi has remained coy on divulging certain performance metrics, including that all-important EV figure, range. Such details will likely have to wait for a subsequent on-road test, but for now, we know this mid-size SUV will generate up to 402 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque. Audi says that's enough to heave this 4,500-pound crossover to 60 miles per hour in 5.5 seconds and onto a 124 mph top speed. We can also safely ballpark that with its 95 kilowatt-hour battery, the 2019 E-Tron should hit somewhere between 240 and 295 miles per charge. A depleted pack, by the way, will be able to be filled to 80% in around 30 minutes if you're lucky enough to find a 150 kilowatt DC quick charger. What cold, hard specs can't tell you is the way the E-Tron comports itself, how it feels behind the wheel. While my drive time was limited to the aforementioned salt pan drifting around a temporary road course and some mild off-roading, I can say that the E-Tron has the ingredients to be a far more entertaining stare than its SUV body style and conservative sheet metal might lead you to think. If hearing the term salt pan as you reminded the hard-packed surface of some place like the Bonneville Salt Flats, think again. The pan's traction coefficient is actually approximate to snow. So this isn't just an exercise for fun, it's actually akin to what E-Tron drivers are likely to face in the real world. Given the E-Tron's inherently low center of gravity afforded by its huge 1,500-pound battery pack, stable and predictable handling on loose surfaces is something you might reasonably assume. What isn't expected, however, is the verve and ease with which this SUV attacks such scenarios. Thanks to E-Tron's near 50-50 sway distribution and to its electric powertrain's inherently fluid power delivery, and a lack of transmission gears to rifle through, it's actually easier to catch and hold adrift than it would be in most comparable conventional internal combustion models. I also found it very easy to change directions, slaloming through our temporary road courses gait like a Super G alpine skier. One interesting departure from the norm? The e-Tron's hill descent control. Most new SUVs have some sort of off-road cruise control for low-speed crawls down hills, but e-Tron is unusual that speed isn't added or subtracted using the steering wheel buttons or a stalk. Instead, the rate of progress is altered using the brake and accelerator pedals, which are temporarily desensitized to allow for single mph control. One other interesting note, hill descent control is automatically activated on slopes of over 6% when drive select is set to off-road. Most vehicles require pushing a dedicated button. I'll need more time to figure out if I like this control scheme better or worse than traditional button-based setups, but in my limited testing, it worked fine. Speaking of tech I need more time with, my e-Tron featured Audi's brand new virtual side mirrors. These units replace traditional reflective glass with a pair of small cameras and a set of high-resolution screens mounted in the upper corners of the inner doors near the dashboard. I've been dreaming about having this tech since I first saw it on concept cars in the 1980s. After decades of delays, digital mirrors are finally hitting the world streets, although Washington red tape appears set to keep digital side mirrors out of the US in the near term.